And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the
Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning to you, Jim.
What did you think of that game last night? Well, all the games. There were so many games.
Well, there weren't that many. 2 baseball games and 1 real football game. I would have, I'm about to contact the Chinese and have them investigate the NFL officials.
Well, they're pretty busy. They're investigating everybody else.
Well, no, they're not. I don't think they've accepted the latest request.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a mess. The officiating is pretty poor, no question.
Well, there was no way that was a roughing the passer, and they couldn't review it, and the announcers were all over it, and they were right, and it was an absurd call. I mean, it was so obvious, and I didn't understand the delay of game call, which they called on the center at an odd time, and then. The kicker misses the field goal after they penalize him 5 yards, which probably cost them the game. But, they covered they only won the game by a point thanks to them going for a 2-point conversion. But I really thought the Rams were on their way to win because Goff had them moving down the field and got them in a position for the field goal. It was a really good drive at the end of the game in that last minute and a half.
Yeah, both quarterbacks played extremely well. Russell Wilson's a magician. The Rams are the better team, in my opinion. But Russell Wilson does so much that you just can't even coach what he does. He's just a natural.
He's such an accurate passer, and he's so good in the pocket, and he moves out of the pocket so well, but some of the Rams came up with some key stops in the game when they had to. Their defense didn't play all that badly against them. They got some terrific breaks in the game. A couple of key penalties that kept drives going for them. Really helped them.
That is true. It was very entertaining to watch. That's for sure. And the game opened, Rams were favored, then it went to the Seahawks favored, and then, a lot of different, if you shop for numbers, I think you could have won that game on either side, but it did close the Seattle favored. But
I don't know, I never really saw the Rams favored game. Seattle was favored fairly early in the week. When the schedule came out, the printed schedule came out on Tuesday, the Seattle was 1.5 point favorite.
Yeah, it really just depends on when you start your betting process. For example, next week's lines are up already. It's ridiculous. But they got week 6 lines up in the NFL already. You can bet them now, even before week 5 is played. Then Sunday they adjust them. They come out in the afternoon about 3-4 o'clock, and you can bet them then again. Then Monday they adjust them. Tuesday adjust them. But the average player would have never seen the Rams favored. That's not a line that the public sees much. It's just it's out there too early. But it was great. The baseball, the Dodgers pitching staff just was remarkable last night. Bueller just shut him down. He was incredible. Corbin.
Yeah, I think Washington was a little bit tired too. They had to play the play-in game, and their bats were tired. I'll be interested to see what Washington does today. And the other game, Atlanta blew a 3-1 lead late. Almost came back and tied it at the end. And Osuna didn't run out. he thought he had a home run and was trotting around the bases and got a single where he should have had a double, which was very costly in the game.
Yeah, it was.
I still think Atlanta can take that series, but it's a long way to go still. And I think the Yankees are playing Minnesota. It should be an interesting game there too. We'll see how good the Yankees are. Minnesota's sending a real good pitcher against them. I think there'll be a lot of runs scored in that game.
I agree with that. I agree. You know, this is number 1, number 2 in home runs this year. Minnesota actually had more home runs than the Yankees did, but they were 1 and 2 ranked. And you know, this matchup between Tampa, it's an early game. It starts at 11 our time. Glasnow against Verlander. We all know for how good Verlander is. I mean, this he's capable of pitching a no-hitter almost every time he goes out there. But this other guy, Glasnow, has been a red-hot pitcher. And Tampa has beaten them this year's series. They had more wins against Houston. That's going to be a tough game to win, but I'll tell you what, you can't sleep on Glasnow or the Rays.
I won't be betting that game. I'm not going against Verlander.
No, but you might have a nice under bet. That's a possibility. Yeah. But it is the problem with that.
What's the under? About 5.5?
7.5. It's 7.5, which is why it's just that's high. I mean, of course, it also can get down to the bullpens, and then you never know what you're going to get when you open that box of chocolates. But
well, I don't know that it will. Verlander is a guy who doesn't like to give the ball up.
Yeah, you won't get a complete game out of Glasnow. You might out of Verlander. That's true. Yeah. Kershaw goes today against Strasburg. That's another great game, another potential pitcher's duel. And you mentioned Atlanta. It's hard for me to say this name, Fulton Wise or something.
Yeah.
He's been very sharp, but Flattery, since the All-Star break, this guy hasn't given up anything. And that's when you look at this and you see Flattery in St. Louis is actually favored in this game at Atlanta. That tells you something. That's quite the. For them to go in there favored, that is definitely a pitcher line. Because Flattery's been so sharp.
Aren't they usually?
Favored at Atlanta?
No, aren't they usually pitcher lines?
Oh, yeah, there are, but when you have the home field advantage to Atlanta in a playoff matchup like this, you would think that well, it's coming down a little bit. Open 122, it's 117 right now. So Flattery's favored. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't the lines usually very much dependent on pitchers?
They are more so during the regular season, but right now you would think that the team that has the home field advantage would be getting a little bit more respect. So the odds makers knew that. You're right, they always are. But what the odds makers knew is Flattery has been so hot, they put him out there at a 125 favorite over Atlanta. I don't think they should be favored. I think it should be pick'em. But that's just a minor adjustment, and I think maybe the market's going to make it that way. Game goes off today at 1:30 our time, 1:37. Interesting, very interesting stuff. We got games tonight in football. We've got games all weekend, college and pro. A lot of people debate this Central Florida-Cincinnati game. There's a lot of people on both sides of that game. There's a good argument there.
I think Central Florida is a very good team, and I think they can score. And I think Cincinnati has kind of stumbled a little bit.
Yeah, another game is New Mexico, San Jose State. I don't think you're going to see much defense in that game. You probably get 70, 75 points out of that game.
Okay. You think anybody's going to be watching that game with the baseball going on tonight?
It depends on how many televisions you have. If you're in a sports book and there's 40 televisions, you might see a little bit of it. And it depends on where your money is. You're going to go with your money.
Well, I don't think New Mexico San Jose State is a game that's going to attract a lot of action.
Probably not. I would say you're definitely right there. You're definitely right. The other game will get more attention for sure. You see anything on the card on Saturday that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a couple of games that. I think Texas, West Virginia. There's some interest there because Texas has Oklahoma next week, and they're a double-digit favorite over West Virginia at West Virginia. That game is going to attract some attention. And California, Oregon. Oregon's a pretty good-sized favorite over California, who threw in a clunker last week and has some quarterback issues. Michigan, Iowa, big game for Michigan, very important game for Michigan, and their future. And outside of that, Georgia is a huge favorite over Tennessee. It's not a great week, really, for matchups this week. Auburn, Florida is probably the best matchup. And Ohio State, Michigan State. Ohio State is given 20 in that game, and Ohio State is so good right now. So I guess probably the best game on the card is Auburn, Florida.
Yeah, from the standpoint of line, Auburn 3-point favorite down to 2.5. Still threes out there, but mostly 2.5. That is a very competitive matchup. The other games, most of what you mentioned were big chalk. Anything in the pros on Sunday that really stands out to you? Do we know who's going to call?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of interesting matchups this week because there are, Green Bay, Dallas is a very important game for both teams. Coming off losses, and those are two good teams. Green Bay's defense is going to be severely tested. Their run defense is giving up 142.5 yards per game and they're going to face Zeke. They always play well at Dallas. We'll see about Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh came to life last week. You've got Minnesota, which has some internal issues. The receivers aren't happy, and they're playing the Giants, who may get the running back healthy. He's made a miraculous recovery from his injury, and he had a full workout the last 2 days. And Tampa Bay, New Orleans. Arians has done a great job with Winston, and he's had 2 terrific games in a row playing at New Orleans. Can he keep it up? So, and Buffalo, Allen may play for Buffalo. There's a question about that. There's also a question about the Jets quarterback. And if he's recovered from mono sufficiently, he's waiting to get an okay from the doctors today. I think he should wait another week. He's risking his spleen. He hasn't nobody's hit him yet. He's had non-contact drills. When he takes a shot, he could be in danger. I'm not exaggerating. And I hope the coach recognizes that and pays attention to the doctors. Denver Chargers, is a conference rivalry that the Chargers have really dominated in recent years. And then you have Indianapolis at Kansas City, 2 quarterbacks. One quarterback is coming off a terrible game. And Cleveland at San Francisco. How good is San Francisco? They're one of 3 undefeated teams left. So it's a pretty good schedule this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of good games out there. I like the pro card a lot this week. I know you do as well. You're in several contests, and you're in the. I think you're still in the RJ, correct?
Yeah, sure. I'm there every week through the whole season.
Right. So, well, good luck this weekend, Hank. I know you're going to have a lot of sharp plays. You're always on the sharp side of things. And
well, I had a good night last night. I had the over, and I had the 1.5 points because. And if I had seen it early, I still would have waited on that because I didn't think the Rams coming off that loss. I didn't think they would be favored in the game, and but Seattle is the Rams are now 2 games behind. But next week, I think the Rams play San Francisco next week.
Let me see if I can see it here. October, let's see here. The Giants go to New England on, that's Thursday night. The Rams play, Rams are at home against San Francisco next week. That's huge. That's a huge game. The Rams must, they must step up for that one. Absolutely. Let me see if there's any other great games next week that we can look forward to. Well, Philadelphia's at Minnesota. That's going to be, pretty good game. That should be.
No, it won't. The quarterback will tank for Minnesota.
Well, history would say that would be the case. That's very interesting. Okay.
His record against winning teams is abysmal.
Yeah, it is.
And it's getting to the point now where Minnesota is talking about trading one of their unhappy receivers for a high draft pick so they can take a quarterback next year. And I think that could happen.
Hank, I know we never talked about this, but a few years ago, Minnesota had Case Keenum. I think they had Bradford, and they had Bridgewater. They had 3 quarterbacks on their roster, and I think they were 13-3 in the regular season, and they lost the playoff game to Philadelphia after a miracle win over the Saints.
Yeah, Keenum was a quarterback.
Yes, he was. He was the starter, and he played all year. But the other 2 guys were on there. So the season is over, and Zimmer gets rid of all 3 of those quarterbacks and signs Cousins. I never understood why he did that.
It's not him. He doesn't make those decisions in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
They have a general manager who calls the shots on personnel. He's a very respected guy. Well,
everybody, you make good decisions, you make bad ones. That one, they paid so much money to a guy, and they had a guy there that managed the game. Nobody's going to say Keenum's a great NFL quarterback, but he did manage that team to a 13-3 season. So I don't understand why you do that.
Well, the general manager there, he used to work in Miami, and his brother was a real good football player who was a commentator. I can't think of his name right now, but he's been in Minnesota for several years, and he calls the shots on personnel and draft. And he's the main guy there on those decisions.
Well, they got to do something, right? I don't know if this season.
I just told you what they're thinking about doing, and they're very seriously considering it. They've got a couple of guys who are not happy, and the passing game is in trouble, and they need a quarterback. And so they've got wide receivers who, they can. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them didn't end up in New England, and in exchange for a high draft pick. And so they would use that pick to take one of the quarterbacks coming out.
Makes sense to me. But what does that make? Analyzing that, all those things, does that make the Giants a smart play this week?
No. I think Minnesota, the Giants' defense is not very good. that's a defense that the quarterback will probably have a good game against. And they don't have a very good run defense either. So, Minnesota's offense is probably going to have a big game against the Giants. If I was a fantasy player, I'd be involved in that game.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, Hank, thank you very much today. And everybody go to JimFeist.com for Hank's plays and mine. And we'll talk to you again on Monday, Hank.
All right, Jim. Have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
Okay.
And when you go to the website, make sure you sign up for free plays. You can click on the link there and sign up, and we'll send you a free play each and every day. And thank you for listening, and good luck this weekend.